The great American writer, Ernest Hemingway, once said that every true story ends in death. The story that I want to share with you this afternoon begins in death. Because death is what has brought each of you into this room at this hour of Yizkor, of memory, this hour dedicated to mourning on the most sacred day of the Jewish year. The story is a Jewish accounting of chesed, loving kindness, like no other. On Rosh Hashanah Eve, I shared an ancient love story. It was not a tale of young lovers. Ruth, the story's main character, was already widowed, living as an immigrant in the Holy Land of Israel. She had lost her husband named Malchon. Spoiler alert, the word Malchon in English means sickness. If you're reading a story and someone's name is Sickness, it should not come as a surprise when he dies so soon into the narrative. He does so back in his wife, Ruth's hometown of Moab. Ruth's brother-in-law, a man named Chilion, and father-in-law, named Elimelech, they die as well. And all of this happens in the first 5 sentences of the story. The rest of the narrative is actually about how their memories will be perpetuated. That's what the book of Ruth is about. And it worked, because I'm still talking about them and telling you about them thousands of years later. Naomi, Elimelech's widow, Ruth's mother-in-law, she's justifiably a wreck. She's lost her husband. She's lost 2 of her sons. She decides to return home from Moab, to go back to Israel. Her daughter-in-law, Ruth, comes with her. This is where we get this famous line, Ki el asher telchi elech, wherever you go, I will go, right? Uva asher talini alin, wherever you stay, I will stay. Amecha ami ve'elohei Elohai. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Back in Jerusalem, Naomi sends her daughter-in-law Ruth to the threshing floor of the biblical character Boaz, who notices her. This gives us our love story. Why is it so important to Naomi that Ruth finds someone to marry? Naomi doesn't want Elimelech, her late husband's line, to die out. She wants it to continue. She wants people to remember him and her 2 sons amongst all the people in Israel. She wants to perpetuate their memories as a blessing. In the 2nd chapter of just a 4-chapter book, Naomi says to her daughter-in-law, Baruch hu l'Adonai, blessed be the one of God, asher lo azav chasdo, who has not withheld kindness, chesed, et chachayim ve'et hametim, to the living or to the dead. So how is that? How is God, or how are we, lovingly kind to the dead and to the living? We're kind to the dead by perpetuating their memories, by remembering and creating their legacy. Literally, right now, Yizkor. This is the lesson of the book, the story of Ruth. Mike Levine perpetuated the name of his father, Robert. Ronnie Schuster perpetuated the name of her brother, Stephen. And John Ruckman perpetuated the name of his mother, Sue. All of us are called in one way or another to incorporate the legacy of those we love who have died into our lives and into the life of our community, demonstrating our kindness and God's loving kindness to the living and to the dead. The legacy of those who have departed enriches us, the living. And our ancestors are teaching us that it also sustains in life those who have died. How? When you quote someone in the Talmud, a rabbi or someone who has left this world, the Jewish expression is dovesh sifatai yeshanim. Their lips murmur in the grave, because they're continuing to speak from the beyond, proving that they are not forgotten, that their legacy continues. I just quoted someone, Naomi, a minute ago, and she lived, or at least her ghostwriter, thousands of years ago. We remember her through her book, her voice, her story. And by chapter 4 of her story, Ruth and Boaz have a baby. And the Torah says that the child is born to Naomi. Why? Because the child inherits the line of Elimelech, which, as an aside, is a precursor to King David. It's the lineage that is supposed to produce the Messiah. The book of Ruth is the book of Yizkor. That's what the entire book is about. In the end, it leads to redemption. Memory facilitates redemption, and Yizkor is memory. What about us? Those left behind. How might we be redeemed? How does God's chesed, loving kindness, reach us? The word Ruth in English means compassionate friend. It's derived from the Hebrew root re'ut, meaning companion. We are the instruments by which God's chesed, God's loving kindness, reaches others. The concerned friends we have here at Micah or beyond, who hold our hands and let us talk and hug us when we cry. The companions who make sure we're not alone, because they go wherever we go and they stay wherever we stay. Such people are our people. And so this room is filled with God's chesed, God's loving kindness. Jewish tradition is structured in such a way that spiritual communities like ours are taught to guide the bereaved gradually but steadily from devastation, from death, from mourning, to redemption, to feeling alive again. We do this by surrounding those who experience loss with kind-hearted folks and living the ordained rituals for each stage of grief. From Aninut, the period between death and burial, when really no duties are expected of the mourner, to the week of Shiva, when mourners stay home, they're supported by caring friends, to Shloshim, 30 days after the death, when mourners are asked to avoid certain festival occasions, to Shana, the year of remembrance, when Kaddish is said regularly and a memorial stone is dedicated. There's wisdom in this slow, sequential approach to grief, with its intuitive understanding that bereavement is not a medical condition that we recover from. We do not recover from the death of a loved one. Life does not go back to normal. We are not the same as we were before. We're changed, and somehow we must go forward. The thing is that this rabbi has learned that the human heart is not governed by timetables, not even the powerful sequence of Jewish mourning rituals, as beautiful and as ingenious as they may be. Mourning, it turns out, is not a linear process. It's not one that we go through in a fixed set of stages. It is an ongoing process of renegotiating a relationship, a continuing bond, for sure, with someone who's no longer physically present, and of reconstructing a meaningful world and a place for us in it after a loss. Grief counselor Frieda Wasserman offers this to mourners. There will come a time when you will go for an hour, a day, or even a week without crying. When you are hit by a tidal wave of emotions, the duration will gradually diminish, and there will be more time between those tidal waves. You will eventually be able to talk about your loved one without feeling an overwhelming sadness. You will find yourself able to laugh again and enjoy yourself more often. You will be able to smile as you think of tender memories. You will begin once again to engage in activities that gave you pleasure in the past, and you may even develop some new interests. You will begin to see and feel a possibility of hope for a meaningful life ahead. That's what happened to Ruth. Certainly happened when she fell in love a second time. I'm certain of it. It's what happened to Naomi when she held a baby in her lap. Until that happens for you, regaining that feeling of hope for a meaningful life ahead, Judaism here at Micah offers you Yizkor, a resting place where we stop along the way to pause and to mourn and to cry and to say Kaddish before resuming the journey. A place to pay tribute, to light candles, to perpetuate memories, to bask and feel safe in the embrace of our compassionate community so that we might gather our strength and resolve to go forward.